Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today. We are so excited for what we have planned for you today. But first, before we get started, I want to introduce one of our team members. We keep him behind the scenes, and not many people have really talked to him. But let me explain a little bit about what he does. He handles our HR. He does a lot with our technology, setting all of our processes in place. And when we actually rolled out the extra care membership last year, he was the one to make sure that it all worked out perfectly. So, and more about him is he is my lifelong partner of 23 years. So I am going to introduce my husband, Joe McClain, to you.
Hey there, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Suzanne. But yeah, it's great to be here.
Okay, so let me tell you first kind of the story behind all of this. If you remember just maybe a couple of months ago, we had went out to a business conference in California. And at that business conference, Joe and I sat there and we talked about how could we do more for our clients besides just, helping you with your Medicare plans. We really wanted to do more for you. And if you remember, I think it was a couple months ago when I came back, I had done the live cast on the 5-circle fit and how each circle, if you were fit in each circle, it gave you your major circle of your purpose of life. And that was one of the biggest things that we learned at that conference. And as we were, talking about how we could help our clients, our minds were so drawn to how could we do more for you. And Joe actually ran across Dr. Riley Moynes' TED Talk. And as we listened to it, we were thrilled knowing this was exactly what we were looking for. So at that time, we contacted Dr. Riley Moynes, and he graciously agreed to let us interview him, which we thought would be very beneficial to you. And that's why I really thought that it would be great to have Joe do the interview with me here with Dr. Riley Moynes.
Yeah, thank you, Suzanne. It's an absolute honor to be here and to be a part of what Suzanne and I think could be a big help to everybody watching right now. And hopefully in the future, we'll have this on YouTube and other places for people to review. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big help to a lot of people. So let me start by telling you a little bit about Dr. Riley Moynes. During his varied career, Riley has been an educator, author, financial advisor, public speaker, and publisher. He waltzed through phase 1 of retirement, struggled through phase 2, tried a dozen different initiatives in phase 3, and now in phase 4, he researches, writes, publishes, and speaks on topics of current interest and importance. He is a TEDx speaker and a Probus Global speaker. His recent publication, 4 Phases of Retirement, is a Canadian bestseller with sales over 16,000 copies. His recent TEDx talk on the topic has received over 1 million views and is the basis for today's presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Riley Moynes.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Suzanne. Nice to join you today. Look forward to our conversation.
All right, so many of you on this, live cast here is either currently retired or looking for retirement here in the near future, or maybe you're just curious to see what this is all about. So the question I have for you, Dr. Moynes, is what are the ingredients to a successful retirement?
Well, I would say there are several. Obviously, it's really helpful if one has reasonably good health. And it's very helpful as well if one has reasonably stable finances. But beyond those things, to me, if you had to boil it down to kind of the one thing, I would say that a successful retirement is one in which the individual has a reason to get up in the morning, has a purpose, has something that drives them, that makes them want to contribute, that makes them want to be involved, that just keeps them interested and excited about each and every day.
Absolutely. So obviously we help people with their Medicare here, and people are they're concerned about their getting their finances in order for retirement.
Mhm.
But what would you say that people underestimate about retirement?
Well, the one thing that I have found through my research would be that everyone says you have to get ready to retire financially, and of course you do. But what they don't tell you is that you also have to get ready psychologically. And that's an area that has been overlooked for the longest time, in my view. We're just really starting to explore the importance of that psychological attitude towards retirement, because there will be a number of significant changes and challenges that come to almost everyone when they retire. And so it's really significant, I believe, that people are prepared psychologically as well as financially.
That's great. Now, I will tell you that a lot of clients I've heard over the last couple of years, especially with COVID, with one's being separated, how they're in their retirement phase, they're stuck at home, and there was a lot of psychological things that clients have reached out to me and just said, I'm just so lonely, and they were just trying to fit in the psychological of, now I'm retired and now I have this restriction on me. So I think you are 100% spot on the psychological aspect.
Well, certainly these last couple of years have been a challenge, and they have made it extremely difficult for many folks. But I think that these challenges have actually kind of highlighted the need to be prepared psychologically and to be ready to go when things open up again.
Absolutely. So Dr. Moynes, I guess maybe explain a little bit about what are the 4 different phases that people face during retirement? Right.
Happy to do so. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the work that I've been doing. I was struggling for a period during my retirement as well. I just kind of couldn't figure it out, and I just wish I knew then what I know now about it. But based on hundreds and hundreds of interviews that I've conducted with retirees, I have put together a proposal, I guess, that suggests that there are 4 significant phases that almost everyone, not everyone 100%, but we can talk about the exceptions a little bit later if you like. But overwhelmingly, my experience is that retirees face 4 phases of retirement. Briefly, the first one is what I call the vacation phase. That's the one where we kind of do what we want, when we want, if we want, with whom we want, and where we want. It's just like being on vacation, no timetable, no routine, and we love that for a while. And for most people, phase 1, this vacation phase, represents their image of an ideal retirement. That's what people think retirement should be about. And it is for a while. But we have to keep in mind that back in 1950, which doesn't seem all that long ago to me, average life expectancy in North America was 68 years. So we could anticipate 3 years of retirement approximately. Well, now things have changed so substantially with increases and improvements in medicine in particular, and just there's just longer life expectancy. And right now, many of the folks, I suspect, who might be watching or listening to us today could anticipate living for 1/3 of their life in retirement, up to 30 years, as compared to 3 years not that long ago. So in phase 1, we're happy to have this vacation phase. But what happens is, in my experience, after a couple of years, we actually, too much of a good thing is almost too much. And I find that after a couple of years, I certainly did, many retirees actually get bored and they miss the routine that they didn't like to have for a while when they were in the vacation phase. But something in us seems to require some kind of routine. And I've had people actually say to me after a couple of years of retirement, like, is that all there is to retirement? I thought it was going to be different than this. So when people start to ask that question, they have moved from phase 1 to phase 2, which I refer to as the time when we suffer loss and we feel lost. And we lose 5 major elements of our former life. We miss that routine. We miss a sense of purpose, purpose. Many people associate or take their jobs very seriously, and they get a real sense of purpose out of that job. And when it's gone, whether through their choice or someone else's, it's a huge loss. A sense of relationships that we often build up during our working career, and some of these relationships, become lifelong friendships. So we lose that. For some people, there's a loss of power, depending on their work situation. They may have had control, perhaps over a budget or a number of personnel. And when that's gone, this combination of losses is very, very severe. And these losses are all associated directly with retirement. At the same time, during this phase of our life, in our 60s, most likely, we also experience what I refer to as the 3 Ds. The first is depression. There is a very good likelihood that when we retire, in fact, the world famous Mayo Clinic says that there's a 40% likelihood that when someone retires, they will experience and they will display signs of clinical depression. There's also, of course, physical and mental decline during this period of our lives. And somewhat surprisingly to me, there tends to be a spike in divorces during this period of our lives. Divorces since 1990 have skyrocketed for people in their 60s and 70s. So this combination of these losses that we experience, plus dealing with the 3 Ds, it can be kind of traumatic because we don't see them coming. And because we seem to kind of lose them all at the same time, it's kind of like, poof, gone. It's a tough time for many people. And interestingly enough, surprising statistics to me, the single highest rate of suicide in North America today is men over 75. Shocking. Would never have imagined that.
Wow.
Phase 2 can be a very, very difficult period. But the good news is that sooner or later, most of us say to ourselves or a significant other, hey, I don't want to go on like this. I can't face living the rest of my life, perhaps 1/3 of my life, perhaps 30 years of my life feeling like this. I need to make a change. And when we start to express that view, that's the good news. We have turned a corner to phase 3. Phase 3 is what I call the time of trial and error. And that's when we start to ask ourselves, how can I make a contribution? What can I do that's going to make me want to get up in the morning again? How can I contribute? And we start to imagine, we start to think about things, ideally things that we have always loved to do and things that we have always known that we do well. And by focusing on those 2 areas, we can start to think of options, think of activities, think of projects that we want to get involved with that may well kind of give us that sense of well-being and sense of meaning that we have lost in phase 2. Now, phase 3, as I say, lots of trial, lots of efforts, but again, there can be lots of errors, lots of failures there as well. And I could cite a dozen personally, but I'll share just a couple with you if I may. I spent a couple of years working as a volunteer on a condo board until I finally got tired of being yelled at by all of my colleagues on in our community. One time for example, we made the mistake as a board. We decided that rather than planting the traditional daisies in our grounds, we would switch. We would do daffodils this year. And guess what? We got yelled at. Well, you can take only so much of that sort of stuff. I thought about law school. I thought about becoming a paralegal, and I completed a program on alternate dispute resolution. I had high hopes for some activities that might be involved there. Guess what? It all went nowhere. Complete flop. I love to write. And so I created a program called Getting Started on Your Memoirs. Thought that might be of interest to some folks. That program could best be described as having so far enjoyed limited success. It can be a tough time in phase 3, but you gotta keep at it, because if you don't, you can slip back into phase 2, and that is not a happy prospect. So some people stay in phase 1. Some people, unfortunately, remain in phase 2, and they may be, well, some of those statistics that we cited. And some people stay in phase 3. They keep trying, God love them. And some people kind of switch back and forth among them. But those who break through to phase 4 are some of the happiest people that I have ever been associated with. These are people who almost vibrate with excitement. They know what it is that they want to be involved with, and they're involved up to their necks for the most part. And in many cases, it's not just one thing or two things, but they're doing so many things, and they just can't find enough hours in the day. And they are so fulfilled, and they're so pleased with what's going on. It's just a wonderful thing to witness. So not everyone reaches phase 4. I estimate that it probably isn't more than 60% of folks, and that's a discouragingly low number. But those are the 4 phases that I've discovered and that have been reinforced in my conversations with people over and over again.
Well, that's really good. So I would assume a lot of people listening can pretty much identify where they're at right now, which is good. So what would you say? I mean, I have my suspicions here, it could be phase 2 or phase 3, but what would you say is the most challenging phase?
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt in my mind that phase 2 is the most challenging phase. As I say, we've got these 5 major losses that are directly associated with retirement. We've got these other kind of age-related things that I sort of pile on top of the 5 losses. It is, in my experience, it's by far the most challenging, the most difficult. And of course, different people spend different lengths of time in these different phases, and they experience them at different depths as well. But certainly all the evidence, all of my interviews, phase 2 is the one that you want to get over with as quickly as you can.
Right. That's good. So does everyone make it through all 4 stages? And what happens if somebody gets stuck or feels like they're stuck in a stage? What then?
Yeah, no, as I say, Joe, not everyone does make it through to phase 4. And I find that a great discouragement. And that's kind of the next project that I want to spend some time and effort on is to see if we can discover some ways to help a larger number of people break through to phase 4. So yes, some people do stay stuck in different phases. I've had people who tell me that they're very happy in phase 1 and they plan to stay there. It's kind of, as I say, it's kind of the view that most people have as to the ideal retirement. But interestingly enough, the Harvard Business School produced a report a couple of years ago where they had done a longitudinal study over a 20-year period. And they had interviewed 15,000 Harvard Business School graduates. And what they discovered was that the unhappiest retirees of all had not gone on to do anything productive beyond pleasing themselves. Now that's phase 1 behavior. And it's okay for a while, and we should all enjoy that time, but we cannot get stuck there. Because what I have found is that those most likely to break through to phase 4 are those who are in one way or another providing service to others, whether it's on a volunteer basis, but there's nothing wrong with being paid for providing service to others either. But that's the critical element that I've discovered, is that when you're providing service to others, there's an excellent chance that you will make it through to phase 4. And that's really what I see people in phase 3 attempting to find, is where is that kind of sweet spot for them that will allow them to feel that they're being productive again. And there's something in us, it seems, that really wants to provide service to others, to leave the world maybe a slightly better place than we found it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So back to what you said about phase 2 being the most challenging. So what would you say is the key to getting through phase 2 and breaking through to phase 3?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, my problem was that I didn't know about these phases. I was just kind of I felt like I was being tumbled around, and I didn't know that there was a way out. I kind of stumbled on it. So I would say that the key element is to recognize that because you're in phase 2, you probably you won't even call it that, but you just feel lousy. The key to getting out of it, I think, is to find things that are going to be meaningful to you, activities that are going to be meaningful to you, that provide service to others, that make a contribution. And my experience is that they almost always combine things that you already know that you love to do and that you do really well. And they've probably led to successes in your life already. So what we try to do in our workshops is to help people to just think about this, because we're not particularly introspective for the most part, but we have to ask ourselves, what is it that I do really, really well? And everybody has some things that they do. What are some of the things that I love to do? And what are some of the things that have led to success in the past? And if we can consider those 3 elements, they, in my experience, provide the means of moving out of phase 2 into phase 3, because we're going to try some of these things. And ultimately, we hope to phase 4, where we can really kind of zero in on a couple of activities that just kind of make our day.
Right on. So before I go to the next question, you mentioned the workshop, and just to everybody out there, we've been talking to Dr. Moynes about possibly doing a Zoom workshop. It's not as good as being in person, he says, but we're gonna explore that. So if anybody listening now or in the future is interested in that, please reach out to us and let us know, because we're gonna do it based on the interests that we have. So what go to the next question we have here, what have you noticed about people that do make it to phase 4 and able to live in phase 4?
Yeah. Oh, it's just a pleasure to be around those folks. As I say, it's like they almost vibrate with excitement, and they kind of can't wait to get on with their day, because they've got this lined up, they've got that lined up, and they're volunteering here, and they're involved with this, and they're doing that. There's something about them that you know that they are excited. You know that they believe that they're making a contribution. They're doing things that are meaningful and important to them, and they feel that they're kind of making a difference. Those are some of the distinctive characteristics that I find in phase 4 people. And I find that you can kind of identify them pretty quickly when you're looking at a group of folks who may be retired. It's pretty easy to pick out the ones that I would put in phase 4, and you can just tell by their demeanor for the most part.
Right on. So for pre-retirees, I'm sure we have some people on here that maybe are, coming up upon retirement, or possibly just retired, or maybe people even a little bit younger. What advice would you offer them and as they transition to retirement?
Yeah. Well, I find that if I have a framework into which things that I don't understand can fit, then it's helpful for me to understand them more clearly. So I would say for those people who are not retired, I hope that this concept of the 4 phases can provide for them a kind of a heads up. You know, you are going to encounter these things. Don't be surprised when they happen. And if you believe that being forewarned is being forearmed, then by just being aware of the 4 phases, that's going to help them, I believe, and I hope, move through them to achieve phase 4, which in my view is the ultimate. It's the proof of the whole thing that we can just see the differences in these folks. So for those not retired, be aware of the 4 phases and just be alerted to the fact that you're likely going to encounter each and every one of them. So be ready.
Right on, right on. So, I mean, this was good for me. I mean, if it didn't help anybody else, I love it. So I also wanted to let everybody know, like, I know we sent out an email to everybody, you know, all of our clients with a link to your TEDx talk and a link to your website, the4phases.com, which you can get a copy of Dr. Riley's book I have here. And it's a quick read, and it's great to have because it lays all this out, you know, in front of you, a lot of everything he's talked about today. So, Suzanne, do we have any questions from anybody?
We do have questions, and wow, that's all I can say. Because obviously, you guys all know I've been doing your Medicare for years and years and years. And I've had clients, you know, that came with me at 65 years old, and now they're 75 years old. And what's so interesting to me is, you know, I talked with you throughout the years, and, you know, a lot of you will tell me what your experience, what's going on in your life, where you're at, what's going on. And I really did not put the 2 and 2 together. So, you know, lots of you would be like, well, I'm on vacation, we're doing this. And now I got grandkids, and now I've decided to go down a whole different career path, and I'm volunteering, or I'm starting a different job. And I really did not put this together, like that there was actually these true 4 different phases. I don't know, I just didn't get it. So when we watched this TED Talk, it was like, Joe and I talked about it, and we're like, wow, this is what our clients deal with every single year in retirement. So we do have some questions. I'm just going to go through them real quickly and have Dr. Moynes see if he can answer them. Let's see, the first one, it looks like I actually got 2 with exactly the same question. They said they joined a few minutes late and wondered if you could just do a real quick recap of the 4 phases. Just to let you guys know, we are recording this and we will send it out to you too. But if he wants to, Dr. Moynes wants to jump on and just do kind of a real quick recap of the 4 phases, sure, that would be great.
Okay. Phase 1 is the holiday phase. That's the one that everyone looks forward to. It's what we expect, what we imagine retirement will be like, and it usually lasts for a year or so. Too much of a good thing turns out to be too much of a good thing, and we end up getting actually a little bit bored. Phase 2 is the phase where we realize all of the 5 significant losses that we have encountered. As a result, we feel lost. And we also face the 3 Ds that are associated not so much with retirement necessarily, but with the age of our lives. It is the most challenging period or phase of the 4, in my view. And it's the one that we want to and need to work hardest to move past. Phase 3 is where we realize we don't want to carry on like this in phase 2, and we want to try some things. How can I, what's going to make me want to get up in the morning again? And we try a number of initiatives, projects, plans, things that we would like to do. And ultimately, we hope that in phase 4, we narrow a couple of those things that we have decided to kind of try, and we zero in on maybe 2 or 3 of them. and that we want to throw ourselves into and can't wait to get at each and every day or each and every week, depending on what they are. For the fourth phase, most gratifying, most satisfying for most people. That's a quick overview, the Reader's Digest view of the 4 phases again.
Thank you so much. And once again, we'll record this so you'll get a copy of it. Another question we had here is, when you want to retire, but your parents are in assisted living, how can we do it? How can we balance what we need to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an ongoing question. When our parents are in assisted living, obviously there's a time commitment there. There's perhaps a significant time commitment there, and I've been through that as well. And the truth is that during that period of time, it probably, even if we know what it is that we really want to spend much of our time on, we might just be restricted in that. And as I say, that was certainly my experience as well. But notwithstanding parents, being in assisted care, it's important to take care of yourself as well. And it's important to find the things that you want to devote a significant period of your day or of your week, and of course of your life to do.
Thank you for that. Now here's one that the question was, I've been retired for about 15 years. I feel like I've achieved what you would call phase 4, largely through the veterans volunteering and leadership, raising my grandson and supporting my wife. In February, my wife passed away, and I feel like I've fallen into phase 2. What do you suggest of how I can deal with spousal loss? Yeah.
Well, certainly spousal loss is a feature that we tend to associate with phase 2. And I would say that the good news is that this person has felt that they have reached phase 4, and they know how good it can make them feel by being involved in things that are significant to them. And certainly there will be a period of mourning, absolutely, as there should be. But again, I think when that passes, as it will over time, at least we know what phase 4 looks like. We've had the experience, and we can edge our way back there, I hope, as quickly as possible.
Okay, it looks like I have one last question here. She says, I am retired for 5 years. It has been an interesting journey. I find at this time I experienced phase 1, 2, and 4, found some things, but still am searching. I worry that I will fall back into phase 2. What has been your experience with others that have experienced this?
It's unusual in my experience to have people who had a sense of having achieved in some ways phase 4 to feel themselves perhaps slipping back out of that. That is a little bit unusual in my experience. If you feel you're slipping back into phase 4, my hope would be that you'd be able to concentrate on some of the positive, enjoyable, and energizing experiences that you've enjoyed in phase 4, and try to rewire yourself and get back to phase 4 if at all possible.
Okay, actually, a couple more popped in. These are great. And the way I look at it is, you guys are all experiencing this together. So I kind of will call this our little team of my clients that are going through this together. This is a really good one. This person said, I'm close to 80 years old. I'm blessed to be in good health, and I'm living the dream in phase 4.
Wonderful.
What gets me up in the morning, having grown to include daily Catholic Mass. She helps with funeral luncheons. She helps make dinners for the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
She does Bible studies. She joins senior citizens group. She's physically active, such as walking, gardening, reading, spending time, helping out, and helping with her grandchildren. So really, I think what she's trying to do is say, hey, here's some ideas, team. Let's all work together so we can all get through 1, 2, 3 and into phase 4. So
Congratulations.
you know,
What a wonderful, wonderful story that is. That is classic, absolutely classic phase 4 stuff. Wonderful.
Yes, perfect.
Wonderful.
I have one more here. It says you briefly brought up doing some memoirs. How do you do this? Do you have a list of subjects that has been very good for this group to stay active?
Well, it was a program that I put together that I presented in our Florida community. I think the best thing that I can do on this one, Suzanne, is I can give you a reference, not off the top of my head, but I will share that with you, and you can share it with your listener. And that is an approach that I think that your listener would find very, very helpful. It's online, and I'll share that with you when we finish up here.
Perfect. It looks like that's all of the questions that we have. And I myself personally want to thank you. Joe and I are very, very grateful that you have taken the time to help us with our clients. And as our clients, once again, we really, really wanted to do more than just your Medicare insurance. And we found that, you know, going down this road has definitely been beneficial. It's even been beneficial to us. And obviously we're not a retirement age yet, but if you would like to get more information on Dr. Moynes' workshop, please reach out to us via email and let us know so we know what the interest is. So we can, you know, if we can put something together for the workshop, that would be great. So once again, Dr. Moynes, we really appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much. I've appreciated the opportunity. Have a great day, folks. Thanks
for have a great day.
I wanted to say one last thing. So like, for anybody watching this, you can go to YouTube and YouTube, the 4 Phases of Retirement, and his TEDx talk will come up. If you're interested in the book or checking out his website, it's www.the4phases.com. And then, like Suzanne said, if you have any interest in, doing the workshop, please let us know, because we want to circle back around on that. And we will send out the replay recording of this afternoon to everybody that's on our client list, our email client list. So thanks again, Dr. Moynes. This was great. And hopefully everybody got something out of it.
Thanks a lot, folks. I've enjoyed it a whole lot. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.